Democratic Party delivered for you. We're going to talk about that in this episode of The Conversation. Joining me is Shervin Aazami. He's running against the Democratic incumbent in California 32. He's got a strong opinion on that. So Shervin, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, Jane. Great to be with you.
No problem. So in California 32, we have Brad Sherman, who is Democratic incumbent. I hear from mainstream media all the time, good enough. So he votes with the Democratic agenda most of the time. Why would we need to change, they would ask. So Shervin, why do we need to change?
Great question, Jane. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be with you and with your audience. Look, it boils down to, in the 26 years that Congressman Sherman has repped our district, the San Fernando Valley, my hometown, the area that is ground zero for so many crises, including our climate crisis and our homelessness crises. Our district is the site of the worst natural gas blowout in US history. Happened at a site called Aliso Canyon back in 2015. Over 109,000 metric tons of methane dumped into the air. And not only have we not seen that site close down, in fact, we've seen methane storage increase at the site. We're also ground zero for homelessness, where we have over at least 44,000 unhoused neighbors in the city of Los Angeles. Roughly a fifth of them live in the San Fernando Valley, which comprises the bulk of our district. And there's been zero action by the congressman on addressing these issues. And I think what's most apparent to me is that Sherman chairs the very subcommittee on financial services, the Investor Protection Subcommittee, that has jurisdiction over our federal housing finance laws, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and over authorizing new affordable housing programs. And all he's done in that position is take legal bribes from Wall Street corporate landlords like BlackRock and Blackstone, the same institutional investors that are responsible for the fact that 2/3 of apartment complexes here in LA are owned by Wall Street firms. And working class, middle class folks are continuing to be priced out of this basic survival need. Everyone needs housing, and I firmly believe that housing is an inherent human right. And what I am sick and tired of, what voters are sick and tired of, are legislators that give lip service to important working class issues, single payer Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, a humanitarian immigration system, living wages, union rights, give lip service to these things while they are actively financed by the very corporations working against passage of these bills. And Congressman Sherman has over $4 million on hand from Wall Street banks, weapons manufacturers, payday lenders, private equity firms, you name it. So taking money from the very industries he's supposed to be overseeing as our legislator on the committees like Foreign Affairs and Financial Services, has not championed these things. Instead, he continues voting for ever increasing military industrial complex budgets, continues voting for more endless wars, and continues barreling us towards these crises as opposed to being the champion we need. I'm someone who worked on Capitol Hill, legislative director for the only national indigenous healthcare nonprofit. And I'm proud to say I got more bills passed in 2 years as an advocate than Sherman has in 26 as a legislator. So it goes down to advocacy and being an unapologetic corporate-free progressive advocate for the bills we know we could achieve if it was not for political cowardice and corporate greed.
Shervin also, by the way, endorsed by brand new Congress and Senator Nina Turner. So clearly on the progressive side of the Democratic spectrum here, and you can tell from what he just said. So Shervin, again, mainstream media would be skeptical and say, are you saying that taking money from corporations that benefit from higher housing prices, not lower housing prices, is affecting Brad Sherman's votes? That they're taking the huge amount of money he has taken from those corporate landlords might affect his votes?
Do we think that members of Congress and their spouses owning and trading stocks impact their votes? I believe the answer is yes, and I know millions of Americans know the answer is yes. I think a great example here in California, we have a Democratic supermajority, and the California Democratic Party has adopted Medicare for all, universal health care, as part of its platform. And we had a bill here, AB 1400, to enact single payer for all Californians, documented or undocumented. We had county Democratic parties that were endorsing the bill. We had a strong show of support within the legislature, yet it was pulled at the last minute. After it passed the Appropriations Committee, after it passed the Health Committee, it was pulled on the floor of the State Assembly before it was brought up to a vote. And that's because of the power of corporatists who continue to stranglehold the system here. And so it demonstrates that in the moment that we are in, the American people are waking up and understanding that just having the D next to your name, just being the blue Democrat, does not make you a champion for the working class, does not make you a champion for progressive policy. It's actually doing the work, being an advocate, organizing within your communities, pressuring legislators to do their job, stand by their campaign promises, divest from the institutions that are working against these important progressive priorities, and actually stand with the American people and deliver on these bills that have broad bipartisan support. Again and again, we see obstructionists, those who are very loud and those who are more subtle. Acting against the will of the American people, and I'm tired of it, and I know everyone in our district is tired of it as well.
Sherwin, tough question for you. If you were in Congress and the Build Back Better went down the way that it did, and voting rights went down the way that it did, where they voted for it in the House, and Brad Sherman would say, what? I voted for it. What else you want from me? And then he gets killed in the Senate by Manchin and Sinema. What would you have done as a congressman from that district?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think first and foremost, holding pressure on our own US senators, currently whom only one has come out and given a full-throated support for abolition of the filibuster, the Jim Crow relic filibuster. But at the same time, Congressman Sherman, what's really disturbing was last fall, there was a public gathering here in the district that both he and I attended. And I asked him point blank in that public meeting, will you join progressives in withholding your vote on infrastructure in the absence of a secure deal, not a pinky promise, a secure deal on Build Back Better? His response, almost verbatim, was, I'll vote for the bill that comes to the floor. I'll basically do what the Democratic Party tells me, I'll do what leadership tells me. That's not representation. So actually being an advocate and saying, no, we should not pass infrastructure, which had 25 billion in more subsidies for the fossil fuel industry, for these completely milquetoast and ineffective policies like a carbon tax, like fossil hydrogen, that further entrench the industry. Why are we allowing this giveaway to go out when Build Back Better, the piece of legislation that will actually tangibly improve the American people's lives now, not 5 years from now, but now, through universal child care, through paid family leave, through an extension of the child tax credit, housing funds, climate funds, and so much more? Why is that not our main priority? Why are we doing this exchange that's not actually delivering for the American people? We knew before progressives let up and said, fine, we'll pass infrastructure, we knew that Manchin and Sinema were obstructionists. We saw what Sinema had done on prescription drug pricing. After voting no the very next day, went into a backroom meeting with big pharma executives and took max checks from them. I mean, it's just bold-faced corruption. And we're saying, well, it might be different this time. I mean, look, the actions are clear. And unfortunately, hearing someone like Sherman say that I'm just going to do what other Democrats tell me, that's not the representation that voters here deserve, and that I know that we need to actually address the crises before us.
So the website is shervinforcongress.com, shervinforcongress.com with the number 4, but we'll have the link down below too, and you see it there. So Sherwin, the Democratic Party says, but no, don't fight. Don't fight within the party. Primaries are no good. They take money away from the beloved incumbents. And don't fight against Manchin and Sinema because it'll cost us their votes on other things. That civility within the party is the most important thing, and civility overall. And of course, the LA Times and everybody in mainstream media agrees with them, the beloved civility. So what's your argument for fighting?
Why would we have civility when 8 out of 10 Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, when rent is unaffordable anywhere on minimum wage, when we have a Congress that is perfectly fine to give 52% of our annual discretionary budget to the Pentagon for endless foreign wars, when we give another $277 billion for militarized policing and incarceration, while we have at least 500,000 people living on our streets on any given night, when we're barreling towards climate catastrophe, and we have so many communities, including here in California, that live within close proximity of these fossil fuel sites that are breathing in these noxious chemicals every single day. People who are not able to access reproductive rights. We have, I don't know, over 30 states that have enacted anti-trans bills over the past year, one of the deadliest years in US history for our trans community. All these issues piling up, and we're saying civility over protecting the American people. There is no civility when millions of our brethren, people in our own country, are suffering. We are not in a moment right now where we could just lay back and sing our own praises. Now is a time for bold, unapologetic action. We need to demonstrate that we need to protect and empower our democracy and reckon with our sordid legacy, and finally establish a future where no one's zip code dictates their ability to survive. What I firmly believe is that here in the wealthiest nation in the history of the world, poverty is a policy choice and our budgets are moral documents. And I'm fighting for budgets that invest in our communities, in clean air and water, in universal health care, in housing as a human right, in living wages, union rights, reproductive rights, the things that actually keep us safe. And civility be damned in that situation.
Well, I like that kind of talk. My guess is the audience likes that kind of talk. Progressives like that kind of talk. The LA Times will hate that kind of talk. They would much rather have Brad Sherman surrender over and over again and get absolutely nothing done. They would be thrilled with that outcome. So defy the establishment, vote for progressives. Shervin Aazami is one of them. Shervin, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.